Okay, so how have I found joy in a season of uncertainty? I think growing up in church, you hear a lot about joy, and from an early age I knew what joy was, and I knew what it meant, and Jesus dying, and that we have that everlasting joy. But I think what it took me a while to understand and to grasp with is that it's not always that straightforward. And I think I found, especially in times of difficulty with my health, that actually sometimes I did just feel a bit down. And I think as well, there's always that sort of a little bit of a stigma that you feel like you need to be joyful, otherwise you're not being a good Christian, because you should always be joyful. And I think that is something that was a fairly tricky lesson to learn, that actually it was okay to not be okay. But I think importantly, God doesn't want us to stay in that place, and He is the author of joy, and has made a way for us not to be in that place. And I think what I love in Romans is when Paul talks about renewing of our mind, and I think you've got to look at why we need to renew our mind, and it's because the culture of this world doesn't like the fruit of the Spirit. It doesn't like joy, it doesn't like love and peace and patience, and I think so often we spend so much time wrapped in these ideals and these thoughts that sometimes we can become a bit detracted from all that. And so yeah, Romans talks about the transforming of our mind, and I think that is such an important part to being joyful and to having that joy, and something that I found when my health was at its lowest, and I knew that I would have periods to come that would be really challenging. I felt that my joy would be a little bit lower, but I found that when I shifted my focus away from these things and away from the culture of the day, and really checked where my influences were. I checked what I was allowing into my mind and what was speaking over me in these situations, and it was about making those changes to renew my mind. It was about changing that culture. And the practical steps I took to this were things like reducing social media. The amount I wasn't on that, it really made a huge difference. And the news and having this sort of negativity spoken over you constantly was not good. But surrounding yourselves with people who are like-minded, iron sharpens iron, and that really made a difference to my joy. So that, yeah, I would have had these times where I felt a bit down and a bit downcast, but I was surrounded by people and surrounded by influences that would bring that out of that place. And that is such a blessing that the church provides, and that God has got in place, is that joy is there, and that's how I get through those uncertain times and remain joyful, because of the culture that God brings.